Have you ever just stopped and wondered what's really running the show? I mean, underneath the surface of everything we see, there are these invisible rules and hidden helpers, these secret recipes that somehow create order out of what should be total chaos. Let's start with a little puzzle.
So what on earth could a column of ants, marching along with their little leaves, have in common with the scientific formula for a tornado over water? I know, it sounds like a weird question, right? But the answer? Well, it tells us something really fundamental about how the world works.
And the answer is, they both depend on what we're calling unseen architects. These are the hidden, complex, adaptive systems working tirelessly behind the scenes. They're the secret ingredient that makes these two completely different things not only work, but thrive.
Okay, let's start our investigation deep in the rainforests to uncover a partnership that is as mind-blowing as it is essential for survival.
So here's the deal. Leafcutter ants are one of the biggest plant eaters on the entire planet. I mean, they can strip a whole tree bare. But here's the catch. A lot of the plants they harvest are actually full of toxins. They're poisonous. So how do they get away with eating poison for breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Well, here's the first plot twist. They don't eat the leaves. Not at all. The ants are actually farmers. They haul all those leaf bits back to their huge underground nests to grow a very specific fungus, Leucoagaricus gonguliforus, and that fungus is the only thing they eat.
But wait, that just makes the mystery even stranger, because it turns out the fungus itself is super sensitive to those same plant toxins. So the very leaves the ants are bringing home to feed their crop could actually kill it. It's like a farmer watering his plants with poison. So how does this whole system not just collapse on itself? And the solution, the unseen architect, is living right there in the fungus garden. It's an entire community of microbes. Bacteria like Klebsiella and Pseudomonas basically act as a collective external stomach for the colony. They break down and neutralize the toxins in the leaves, making them safe for the fungus to eat. This tiny, invisible cleanup crew is what allows the entire ant civilization to exist. It's incredible. Okay, now let's go from the floor of the forest to the surface of the open water. Because here, another invisible architect is at work, creating this amazing structure from what looks like, well, just a bunch of air and water.
If you've ever seen a water spout, they can seem to just pop up out of nowhere. The sky might not even look that stormy, but their formation isn't random at all. Turns out it follows a very specific, very invisible recipe.
This crazy-looking chart is called a nomogram, but you can just think of it as a cookbook for meteorologists. It shows that for a waterspout to form, you need a precise combination of atmospheric ingredients to come together in exactly the right way. And that recipe really just comes down to three key things. First, you need a big temperature difference, cold air sitting on top of much warmer water. Second, the clouds have to be just the right thickness. Can't be too thin, can't be too thick. And third, and this is the weird part, you actually need light winds near the surface. You get those three invisible conditions just right, and bam, you get a waterspout. And how reliable is this recipe? Well, during something called the Great Outbreak of 2003, these exact conditions locked into place over the Great Lakes, and they stayed that way for a whole week. The result? More than 66 waterspouts. It was the largest outbreak ever recorded. You know, this idea of invisible systems creating order and stability, it goes way beyond the natural world. So let's make a little jump from the atmospheric cloud to the digital cloud that runs pretty much everything in our modern lives. With all that complexity, what's the unseen architect that keeps it all from crashing down?
Our final deep dive is going to take us into the super abstract but totally critical world of multi-cloud computing.
Get this. Today, 89% of organizations rely on systems that are spread out across multiple cloud providers. Just think about that. It creates this unbelievably complex web where you'd think one tiny little failure could bring the whole thing tumbling down. And failure is just a constant threat. You have what are called transient failures, a tiny network hiccup that lasts for a millisecond. Or you can have a major outage where an entire data center just goes dark. So how do you possibly build a system that can survive both? Well, the solution is in a design philosophy called event-driven architecture. Instead of different services talking directly to each other, they communicate by sending messages or events through a central system. This separates them, so the failure of one part doesn't immediately cause a domino effect and crash everything else. And right at the very heart of this design is our final unseen architect. The event store. The easiest way to think about it is as the system's perfect, indestructible memory. It's a central log that keeps a permanent record of every single thing that is supposed to happen.
So here's how it works its magic. First, every single event is saved to the store before anything else happens, so nothing ever gets lost. If a service is busy for a second, no big deal. The system just automatically tries again later. And if a whole service crashes and goes offline, once it's back up, it just asks the event store, "Hey, what did I miss?" The store then replays all the events, bringing that part of the system back to a perfectly consistent state without losing one single byte of data.
All right, let's zoom all the way back out and connect these dots. We talked about a fungus garden, the atmosphere over a lake, and a global digital network. What's the common thread here?
What we've seen are three totally different systems that all rely on the exact same universal principle. For the ant colony, a community of microbes makes survival possible by cleaning their food. For the atmosphere, a precise recipe of invisible ingredients creates incredible structure. And in the digital cloud, an event store guarantees resilience by remembering everything. Each one is an unseen architect, working in the background, designing for success.
And it all comes down to this core philosophy, put perfectly by senior solutions architect Teena Idnani. Design for failure. That's the secret. That's what unites all of these systems. They don't pretend that failure isn't going to happen. They are built with the absolute assumption that it will. And they have an invisible, resilient system already in place, ready to handle it. Ultimately, our world is just full of these hidden systems that provide resilience and create order. And once you start looking for them, you see them everywhere, from the microbes in the soil, to the economic forces that guide markets, to the lines of code running on your phone. So I'll leave you with this question. What other unseen architects are out there quietly shaping your world right now?